On the surface, she was the perfect daughter, delicate, fragile, and constantly battling illness. Her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, was admired as the picture of sacrifice, devoting her life to caring for her sick child. But behind closed doors, their world was built on lies, manipulation, and abuse. And when the truth finally came out, it shocked America. This is the case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, an unbelievable story of control, deception, and a desperate escape that ended in murder. Gypsy Rose Blanchard was born in 1991 in Louisiana. To the outside world, her childhood seemed anything but ordinary. From an early age, her mother, Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard, claimed Gypsy suffered from a long list of medical conditions: leukemia, muscular dystrophy, seizures, asthma, hearing problems, even a chromosomal disorder. Dee Dee shaved Gypsy's head to make her appear like a cancer patient. She forced her into wheelchairs, feeding tubes, surgeries, and endless medications. Doctors were often skeptical, but Dee Dee always had explanations: medical records, test results, or a quick change of hospital when suspicion arose. Neighbors and charities were moved by the sight of a frail girl and her selfless mother. They donated money, gifts, even a house built by Habitat for Humanity. Gypsy and Dee Dee attended Disney trips, conventions, and charity events. They became minor celebrities in their Missouri community, living what seemed like a heartbreaking yet inspiring story. But the truth was much darker. What no one knew was that Gypsy wasn't actually sick. She could walk. She could eat normal food. She didn't have leukemia, nor muscular dystrophy. Dee Dee was suffering from Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a psychological disorder where a caregiver fabricates or induces illness in a dependent to gain sympathy, attention, or control. Gypsy grew up believing she was ill. Whenever she questioned it, Dee Dee manipulated her with fear, guilt, or physical abuse. She threatened Gypsy, telling her she would die without the treatments, or that no one would believe her if she told the truth. When Gypsy got older and stronger, Dee Dee tightened her control. She kept her isolated from friends, relatives, and even her father, who had limited access. Gypsy had no schooling beyond second grade. She didn't even know her real age. Dee Dee lied about her birth year, making Gypsy think she was younger. On the outside, they looked like a loving, inseparable pair. Inside, Gypsy was a prisoner in her own home. By her late teens, Gypsy began sneaking onto the internet at night. Through secret Facebook accounts and dating sites, she explored the world her mother kept from her. In 2012, she met Nicholas Gojon, a man from Wisconsin with his own troubled background, including mental health issues and a criminal record. Despite the distance, their online relationship grew intense. They role-played, talked about marriage, and even shared dark fantasies. For Gypsy, Nick represented freedom, someone who loved her and believed in her. But he also became the key to her escape. She confided in him about her mother's lies and abuse. Together, they began plotting. And soon, their conversations took a deadly turn. By 2015, Gypsy was desperate. She wanted out of her mother's control. But to her, there seemed only one way. Gypsy convinced Nick to come to Missouri. On June 14, 2015, he arrived at the Blanchard home. Gypsy let him inside while Dee Dee slept. Then, in the middle of the night, Nick stabbed Dee Dee to death. Gypsy hid in the bathroom, covering her ears, while her boyfriend carried out the crime. Afterward, they took some money, packed a few belongings, and fled by bus to Wisconsin. The next day, a shocking Facebook post appeared on Dee Dee's joint account. "That bitch is dead." Neighbors, alarmed, called police. Soon, Dee Dee's body was discovered. The community was horrified. How could such a devoted mother be murdered by her own child? But then came the twist. When police found Gypsy and Nick in Wisconsin, they expected to rescue a disabled girl. Instead, Gypsy walked on her own, unaided. She appeared healthier than anyone had ever seen. The truth unraveled quickly. Gypsy had never been sick. Dee Dee had fabricated everything. Years of unnecessary treatments, lies, and abuse were exposed. The story captured national attention. The media painted Gypsy as both a victim and a killer. Public opinion split. Some saw her as a mastermind, others as a desperate child pushed to extremes. Forensic psychiatrists and experts testified that Gypsy had been controlled her entire life, stripped of autonomy, and psychologically manipulated into believing her only escape was violence. In 2016, Gypsy accepted a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Her boyfriend, Nicholas Gojan, went to trial. In 2018, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Inside prison, Gypsy shocked many with her transformation. She gained weight, grew out her hair, and looked healthier than ever. In interviews, she admitted she felt freer behind bars than she ever did living with her mother. The case became a cultural phenomenon. Documentaries like HBO's Mommy Dead and Dearest and Hulu's dramatized series The Act brought the story to millions. Audiences were captivated. How could a mother do this to her child? How could a daughter turn to murder? And who, ultimately, was responsible? Some sympathized with Gypsy, seeing her as a survivor of unimaginable abuse. Others argued she still made the choice to kill. The case sparked wider conversations about mental health, munchausen by proxy, child abuse, and the failure of medical systems to catch the signs. In December 2023, after serving 8 years, Gypsy Rose Blanchard was released from prison. At 32 years old, she walked into freedom for the first time in her life. Her release reignited public fascination. Interviews, social media accounts, and even book deals followed. Gypsy shared her hopes of living a normal life, advocating for abuse survivors, and raising awareness about munchausen by proxy. But questions remain. Can Gypsy truly escape her past? Will society see her as a victim, a criminal, or both? And what lessons can we learn from a case built on lies, control, and a desperate search for freedom? The case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard is not just about murder, it's about power, control, and the failure of systems meant to protect the vulnerable. Doctors missed signs. Neighbors overlooked red flags. Charities enabled Dee Dee's lies. Everyone wanted to believe the story of a brave little girl and her selfless mother. But behind that story was a nightmare. For survivors of abuse, Gypsy's case is a reminder of how isolation and manipulation can trap victims in silence. For society, it's a call to look closer, ask harder questions, and never assume appearances tell the full truth. In the end, Gypsy Rose Blanchard's story is both heartbreaking and haunting. A daughter imprisoned by lies, a mother consumed by control, and a crime born from desperation. It forces us to confront a chilling reality. Sometimes, the people who claim to love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. This was the case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Abuse, lies, and murder. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, speak out. Help is available.